So there's Commander Vextar, standing in the chrome-plated war room of the Zephyrian High Command, his 4 eyes gleaming with what he absolutely believes is genius. Picture a 7-foot-tall purple praying mantis wearing enough metals to sink a battleship, and you're halfway there. The other half involves an ego so massive it has its own gravitational field. Gentlemen, Vextar announces to his council of equally pompous alien officers, I have discovered the secret to creating the galaxy's most fearless soldiers. The room falls silent. Admiral Crickstock, who looks like a disappointed octopus in military dress, leans forward with interest. General Quinnineth, essentially a walking tree with anger management issues, stops filing his bark-like fingernails. Even Secretary Blombridge, the blob-shaped bureaucrat in the corner, quivers with anticipation. After extensive research into the combat effectiveness of various species across the galaxy, Vextar continues, puffing out his chitinous chest, I have identified the most fearless creature in existence. Not the blood-fang ravagers of Sigma Prime, not the iron-hide berserkers of the Magellanic Clouds. No, my fellow officers, the answer lies on the primitive planet, Earth. He activates the holographic display with a dramatic flourish that would make a soap opera actor jealous. The image that appears shows a small, stocky, black and white mammal that looks like someone crossed a badger with pure, concentrated spite. Behold, Vextar declares, the honey badger. Scientific name, Mellivora capensis. Common name, absolute nightmare fuel. The council stares at the projection. Admiral Crickstock's tentacles twitch nervously. Commander, that creature appears to be roughly the size of a standard waste disposal unit. Size is irrelevant, Vextar snaps back. Observe the data. Statistics flood the hologram. Videos play of honey badgers fighting lions, surviving cobra bites, and generally treating the entire concept of death as a minor inconvenience. This creature has been documented attacking beings 50 times its size. It has built-in immunity to most known toxins. It literally does not understand the concept of retreat. General Quinneth's wooden features creak into what might be a frown. And your proposal is what, exactly? We conscript these creatures into our army? Better. Vextar grins, which is genuinely terrifying when you have mandibles. We study it. We learn from it. We expose our elite soldiers to this creature until they develop the same fearlessness. Think about it. If our troops can face down a honey badger without flinching, what enemy in the galaxy could possibly intimidate them? The room erupts in murmurs of approval. Secretary Blombridge jiggles excitedly. The psychological applications alone could revolutionize our military doctrine. Precisely, Vextar beams. I've already authorized the capture and transport of one specimen to Training Facility Omega-7. Dr. Flemwick will oversee the scientific aspects, while Captain Blixen handles the military training protocols. Within one standard galactic cycle, we'll have the most fearless army in the known universe. Admiral Crickstock raised a tentacle. Have you considered the potential risks of bringing such a creature aboard our facilities? Vextar waved dismissively. Admiral, we've conquered 14 star systems and subjugated the populations of 37 planets. I think we can handle one small Earth mammal. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how the most advanced military civilization in the galaxy decided to poke the universe's angriest creature with a stick. Because apparently when you've got technology that can crack moons and egos that can crack planets, common sense becomes optional. The transport ship had already launched toward Earth. The facility was being prepared. The soldiers were being briefed. Nobody, and I mean nobody, thought to ask what would happen if things didn't go according to plan. Spoiler alert, they didn't. 3 days later, at Training Facility Omega-7, Dr. Flemwick is having what humans would call a very bad time. Picture a nervous flamingo wearing a lab coat, except the flamingo has 6 legs and chronic anxiety disorder. That's Dr. Flemwick, and right now he's staring through reinforced quantum glass at what can only be described as furry chaos incarnate. Subject designation Razor Claw has been in containment for exactly 47 minutes, Flemwick mutters into his recording device, his voice shaking like a leaf in a hurricane. Initial observations suggest that our containment protocols may have been optimistic. Behind him, Captain Blixen, a hulking rhinoceros beetle hybrid with the personality of wet concrete, watches in mounting horror as Razor Claw systematically destroys everything in his enclosure. The honey badger has already figured out how to dismantle the feeding mechanism, turned the exercise equipment into what appears to be medieval siege weapons, and is currently using his claws to carve what might be profanity into the supposedly indestructible walls. Captain, Dr. Flemwick squeaks, perhaps we should reconsider the direct exposure protocols? Absolutely not, Blixen rumbles, though his usual confidence has developed some concerning cracks. The commander's orders were clear. Elite Squad Alpha will begin fear conditioning exercises at 800 hours tomorrow. At this exact moment, Razorclaw looks directly at them through the glass, makes what can only be described as a malicious honey badger grin, and proceeds to somehow flip them off using only his middle claw. Nobody had taught him this gesture. Nobody knows how he learned it. Some knowledge, apparently, transcends species barriers. Sir, whispers Private Glixnor, a trembling insect-like creature who's been assigned to monitor duty. It's looking at us like we're on the menu. Nonsense, Blixen declares, his voice climbing several octaves. It's a simple Earth mammal, granted an unusually aggressive one, but our soldiers are trained warriors from across the galaxy. They can handle one small... Razorclaw chooses this moment to demonstrate his legendary digging skills by somehow burrowing through what the facility's specs claimed was molecularly bonded tritanium flooring. The sound is like someone feeding a starship hole through a wood chipper. Dr. Flemwick, Blixen says very quietly, please tell me you have a backup containment protocol. Well, Flemwick stammers, consulting his tablet with shaking appendages. The manual suggests that honey badgers respond well to enrichment activities, and, oh dear. What oh dear? I don't like oh dear. According to this Earth Wildlife database, honey badgers consider everything to be an enrichment activity. Fighting, destroying property, terrorizing larger predators. Apparently they find fear-inducing situations stimulating. At this point, Razorclaw emerges from his newly created tunnel wearing what appears to be several pieces of the facility's quantum shielding around his neck like the world's most expensive dog collar. He sits down, looks directly at the observation deck, and begins grooming himself with the casual indifference of someone who's just redecorated their prison cell with high-tech debris. Perhaps, Dr. Flemwick suggests delicately, we should postpone the soldier training until we better understand the subject's behavioral patterns. Captain Blixen, whose species is genetically incapable of admitting defeat, straightens his shoulders. Negative. Elite Squad Alpha reports for duty in 16 hours. This creature will teach our soldiers fearlessness if we have to. He trails off as Razorclaw begins juggling 3 pieces of dismantled security equipment while maintaining eye contact with them through the glass. If we have to survive this, Blixen finishes weakly. And thus began Day 1 of the Zephyrian military's introduction to the concept that sometimes, just sometimes, there are forces in the universe that don't care about your advanced technology, your superior intellect, or your carefully laid plans. Forces that wear black and white fur and treat your worst nightmares like a casual Tuesday afternoon. Now, here's where our story takes a turn that nobody, and I mean nobody, saw coming. Not the aliens with their galaxy-spanning intelligence networks, not their predictive algorithms, and certainly not their risk assessment protocols. Because apparently, when you're dealing with the universe's capacity for cosmic irony, even the most advanced civilizations can't account for a simple supply-run mix-up. Enter Tommy Martinez, age 3 years and 4 months, who arrives at training facility Omega-7 in the cargo hold of a supply vessel, having apparently mistaken an alien transport for the world's most elaborate playground. Tommy is what child psychologists would politely call spirited, and what his parents would more accurately describe as a tiny hurricane with opposable thumbs. He's also, as it turns out, completely immune to the concept of danger. Alert, alert, blares the facility's security system as Tommy toddles out of the cargo bay, wearing his favorite dinosaur shirt and clutching a half-eaten juice box. Unknown biological entity detected. Species classification, small human child. Dr. Flemwick's 6 legs nearly give out. A human larva here? How is this possible? Captain Blixen is already reaching for his emergency communicator. This is Code Crimson. We have an uncontained human offspring on level 7. All units respond immediately. But here's the thing about 3-year-olds. They don't speak Galactic Standard, they don't understand military protocols, and they absolutely don't care about your emergency codes. Tommy takes one look around the shiny alien facility, points at the nearest wall panel that's blinking with warning lights, and declares, with the unwavering confidence of someone who's never met a consequence he couldn't charm his way out of, "Pretty! Contain the human spawn," Blixen shouts into his communicator. "Use maximum caution. Intelligence reports indicate human children are unpredictable and potentially more dangerous than their adult counterparts." This is when Tommy spots the observation deck where our heroes are having their collective nervous breakdown. More specifically, he spots the big window overlooking Razorclaw's enclosure, and what does Tommy see through that window? The coolest-looking puppy he's ever laid eyes on. "Doggy!" Tommy shrieks, with the pure joy that only a toddler can achieve when discovering something new and exciting. He presses his tiny hands against the quantum glass, leaving what will later be analyzed as structurally impossible fingerprint impressions on the supposedly unbreakable surface. Down in the enclosure, Razorclaw stops his systematic destruction of alien property and looks up. Now, honey badgers don't typically form social bonds with other species. They're notorious loners who treat friendship applications like lunch invitations. But something about this small, fearless creature, pressing its face against the glass, apparently speaks to Razorclaw's anarchist soul. The honey badger actually sits down and tilts his head, studying this strange new bipedal creature who's showing zero signs of the terror that every other being in the facility has displayed since his arrival. "Fascinating," Dr. Flemick whispers, frantically taking notes. "The human offspring shows no fear response whatsoever. In fact, its biochemical readings suggest excitement and joy?" Tommy starts giggling and waving at Razorclaw, who responds by doing what can only be described as a honey badger version of showing off, namely, demonstrating his ability to juggle pieces of alien technology while standing on his hind legs. "This is problematic," Captain Blixen mutters, watching in growing horror as the most dangerous creature in their facility appears to be making friends with what intelligence has classified as humanity's most chaotic demographic. "Sir," Private Glixnor stammers, "should we be concerned that they seem to like each other?" As if in answer to this question, Tommy somehow manages to activate the enclosure's emergency release mechanism, because of course he does. 3-year-olds are basically tiny chaos engines with an instinctive ability to find the one button you really, really don't want them to press. The containment field drops with a sound like the universe sighing in resignation. What happens next is the kind of sequence that will be studied in military academies across the galaxy for generations to come, filed under "Why You Should Always Read the Fine Print on Your Evil Plans." Razorclaw emerges from his enclosure with the casual swagger of someone who's just been handed the keys to the kingdom. Tommy claps his hands in delight and immediately toddles over to his new furry friend, completely ignoring the 16 different alarm systems now screaming warnings in languages that roughly translate to "run for your lives." "Joggy nice," Tommy announces, reaching out to pet what is arguably the most dangerous predator on his home planet. Razorclaw, displaying the kind of social awareness that would make hostage negotiators weep, actually allows this tiny human to scratch behind his ears. Dr. Flemick's scientific brain is having a complete meltdown. This is impossible. The creature should be viewing the human child as either prey or threat. Instead, it's purring, Captain Blicksong whispers in horror. "Oh, sweet nebulae, it's actually purring." But the real fun starts when Tommy spots the facility's main control panel, which is blinking with more lights than a space disco. To a 3-year-old, this isn't a sophisticated military computer system worth several billion galactic credits. This is the ultimate toy, complete with buttons, switches, and those spinny things that make satisfying clicking noises. "Buttons!" Tommy squeals, making a beeline for the console, with Razorclaw trotting alongside him like the world's most dangerous therapy animal. "Stop the human spawn," Blixen bellows. But here's where things get really interesting. Elite Squad Alpha, the Zephyrian military's finest warriors, comes charging around the corner ready to contain the situation. These are soldiers who faced down the crimson hordes of Arcturus, survived the siege of the Crystal Moons, and emerged victorious from the Battle of the Dying Suns. They take one look at Tommy, all 3 feet of dinosaur shirtwear in chaos, and freeze completely. Because intelligence briefings are one thing, but standing face to face with an actual human child is apparently something else entirely. "It's so small," whispers Sergeant Klingtar, a battle-scarred warrior whose species conquered 3 systems before breakfast. "How is something so small this terrifying?" "Look at its tiny digits," breathes Corporal Vashton, pointing at Tommy's chubby fingers. "Intelligence reports suggest these appendages are capable of manipulating any known technology through pure instinct." Meanwhile, Tommy has reached the control panel and begun his toddler interpretation of advanced alien engineering, which is to say, he starts pressing every button he can reach while making spaceship noises. Razorclaw, not to be outdone, begins using his claws to activate switches that are too high for his new human friend. The results are spectacular. First, the facility's gravity generators start fluctuating, causing everyone except Tommy and Razorclaw to experience random episodes of weightlessness. Tommy thinks this is absolutely hilarious and starts giggling as he floats through the air, while Razorclaw uses the reduced gravity to perform death-defying leaps that would make a circus acrobat jealous. "Emergency protocol, Theta," Blixen shouts, trying to maintain some semblance of military dignity while floating upside down. "Secure the command center." But Tommy's just getting started. His tiny fingers find the environmental controls, and suddenly the facility's atmospheric processors are cycling through the life support requirements of every known species in the galactic database. The air shifts from standard Zephyrian to methane-heavy Titan atmosphere to the oxygen-rich environment of Earth's Jurassic period. Dr. Flemwick, desperately trying to reach his emergency override while bouncing off the ceiling, manages to gasp out, "The human offspring appears to be conducting a comprehensive stress test of our systems. How does it know which controls to manipulate?" The answer, of course, is that Tommy doesn't know. He's just pressing pretty buttons because that's what 3-year-olds do. But the combination of toddler randomness and honey badger vindictiveness is creating a feedback loop of destruction that the facility's designers never could have anticipated. Razorclaw, meanwhile, has discovered the food dispensers and is systematically raiding them while sharing his bounty with Tommy. The sight of a honey badger and a human toddler having an impromptu picnic while elite alien soldiers float helplessly around them is probably the exact moment when the Zephyrian military's confidence started its long, slow death spiral. "Status report." Vextar's voice crackles over the intercom. Captain Blixen, currently stuck in a corner where the malfunctioning gravity field has him spinning like a very large, very unhappy pinwheel, tries to sound professional. "Sir, we have achieved first contact between our soldiers and the Earth specimens. The situation is developing." "Excellent. And the fear conditioning results?" Blixen watches as Sergeant Klinktar, a veteran of 23 combat campaigns, whimpers and hides behind a floating desk chair while Tommy toddles past, trailing stolen alien snacks and followed by his honey badger accomplice. "The fear conditioning is definitely happening, sir, just not exactly as planned." Through the chaos, Tommy spots something even more interesting than buttons, a ventilation grate that's just the right size for a small human and his furry partner in crime. He points at it excitedly and looks at Razorclaw, who immediately understands the assignment. Within 30 seconds, they've vanished into the facility's duct system, leaving behind a control room that looks like it was redesigned by a tornado, with anger management issues and a squad of elite alien soldiers who are seriously reconsidering their career choices. The last thing anyone hears before the duo disappears completely is Tommy's delighted laughter echoing through the ventilation system, followed by what sounds suspiciously like honey badger chuckling, which, for the record, is not a sound that should exist in nature. For the next 2 hours, Tommy and Razorclaw conduct what can only be described as a comprehensive audit of every single security flaw in Training Facility Omega-7. They emerge from air vents in the cafeteria, causing a mass evacuation when Razorclaw demonstrates his food critique skills on the alien cuisine. They pop out of maintenance shafts in the armory, where Tommy discovers that alien weapons make excellent musical instruments when banged together, while Razorclaw provides percussion by systematically destroying the weapon storage racks. Dr. Flemwick has given up all pretense of scientific observation and is now just following the trail of destruction with a damage assessment tablet, muttering calculations that are making him question his life choices. Structural damage to sectors 7 through 12. Complete systems failure in environmental control. The cafeteria will need to be rebuilt. From scratch, possibly on a different planet. Captain Blixen, meanwhile, is experiencing what military historians will later classify as the world's most expensive temper tantrum. He's been chasing a toddler and a honey badger through his own facility for hours, watching them systematically dismantle everything his career stands for, and he's starting to take it personally. "That's it," he roars, his exoskeleton clattering with rage. "Activate the ultimate training protocol. If these creatures want to play with military equipment, let's see how they handle the real thing." "Sir," Dr. Flemleck squeaks. "The ultimate training protocol is designed for our most elite special forces. It's never been tested on whatever this situation has become. Activate it now." Poor Dr. Flemmick, who clearly should have called in sick today, reluctantly inputs his authorization codes. Deep in the facility's core, the quantum reality simulator powers up with a hum that sounds like the universe clearing its throat before delivering bad news. The ultimate training protocol is the Zephyrian military's crown jewel. A holographic simulation system, capable of creating perfect replicas of the galaxy's most dangerous combat scenarios. We're talking about technology that can simulate black hole warfare, psychic predator attacks, and invasion scenarios involving creatures that exist in 14 dimensions simultaneously. Tommy and Razorclaw, still conducting their architectural review of the ventilation system, tumble out of a ceiling vent directly into the simulation chamber just as the system reaches full activation. The chamber seals automatically, trapping them inside what's about to become a holographic hellscape designed to break the minds of hardened space marines. "Oh no!" Dr. Flemick whimpers. "Oh no! Oh no! Oh no!" The simulation begins with what the training manual cheerfully calls Scenario Omega, the Void Hunters of the Dark Nebula. The chamber fills with writhing shadows that take the shape of massive, tentacled monstrosities with too many teeth and not nearly enough respect for personal space. These are perfect holographic recreations of creatures that have literally driven seasoned warriors insane just by looking at them. Tommy's response? He points at the nearest shadow monster and yells, "Octopus!" Razorclaw's response is even better. He looks at these cosmic horrors that have been specifically designed to trigger primal fear in every known species, tilts his head thoughtfully, and apparently decides they look like they need to be taught some manners. What happens next defies every principle of xenopsychology, military training theory, and basic common sense. Tommy toddles up to a void hunter that's approximately 30 times his size, reaches up with his juice box, and offers it a drink. The holographic monster, programmed with the behavioral patterns of actual cosmic predators, actually leans down to investigate this tiny creature that's showing zero fear response. Meanwhile, Razorclaw has engaged 3 separate void hunters in what can only be described as aggressive negotiations. He's climbing up their tentacles, using them as jungle gyms, and generally treating entities that give galactic admirals nightmares like their oversized cat toys. "This is impossible," Dr. Flemick breathes, watching his monitors in stunned disbelief. The fear response protocols should be triggering massive psychological trauma in any biological entity exposed to these simulations. Up in the observation deck, Elite Squad Alpha is watching through the reinforced viewing window and collectively having the kind of existential crisis usually reserved for philosophy majors. Sergeant Klingtar, the squad's toughest veteran, is quietly weeping as he watches a human toddler high-five a tentacle monster. "How?" Corporal Vaston whispers. "How is the tiny human not experiencing terror?" "Look at its face," Private Glixnor stammers. It's smiling. It's actually enjoying this." And Tommy is enjoying it. To him, these aren't nightmarish cosmic entities designed to break minds and devour souls. They're big, friendly monsters that move in cool ways and make interesting noises. When one of them roars with the sound of collapsing stars, Tommy giggles and roars back, a tiny human sound that somehow carries more confidence than the battle cries of entire space armadas. The simulation, confused by subjects that aren't responding according to program parameters, begins escalating. More monsters appear, larger ones. The environmental hazards increase, plasma storms, gravity distortions, reality tears that show glimpses of dimensions where mathematics breaks down and starts crying. Tommy's response to a reality tear? He tries to stick his hand through it to see what's on the other side. Razorclaw's response to plasma storms? He figures out how to surf them. "Sir," Dr. Fleming says very quietly to Captain Blixen, "I'm beginning to suspect that our understanding of human psychology may have been somewhat incomplete." Blixen, watching a 3-year-old human teach a honey badger how to play peekaboo with interdimensional horrors, can only nod weakly. "Dr. Flemwick, I want you to send an immediate message to High Command. Tell them we need to completely revise our threat assessment protocols for Earth species." "But all Earth species, sir?" "All of them. If their children can do this, I don't want to know what their adults are capable of." As if to punctuate this revelation, Tommy discovers that he can make the shadow monsters dance by clapping his hands in rhythm, while Razorclaw has somehow figured out how to weaponize the simulation's own fear-inducing elements against the holographic creatures. The facility's ultimate training protocol, designed to forge the galaxy's most fearless warriors, is being turned into the universe's most expensive daycare activity by a toddler and his furry best friend. And somewhere in the cosmic distance, the universe itself is probably laughing. The rescue operation that follows will go down in galactic history as the Great Tommy Extraction, though the official military records list it as Incident Classification, We Don't Talk About This. It takes 12 hours, 4 different emergency response teams, and a specialist in extremely unconventional hostage situations to safely retrieve one human toddler and his honey badger companion from a training simulation that's now completely rewritten itself around their playtime preferences. When Tommy's parents finally arrive, courtesy of an emergency diplomatic transport that probably violates several interstellar treaties, They find their son sitting in Commander Vextar's personal office, sharing alien fruit snacks with Razorclaw, while the most powerful military leader in the galaxy nervously asks if Tommy needs anything else. Anything at all. "Please, don't touch the orbital defense controls." "Tommy," his mother calls out, relief flooding her voice. "We were so worried. Are you okay?" Tommy looks up from where he's been teaching Razorclaw how to stack alien data tablets into towers, grins with the pure innocence of someone who's just spent the day casually traumatizing an entire military installation, and announces, "I made a friend. His name is Doggy, and he's really good at playing." Razorclaw, for his part, has apparently decided that Tommy's family comes with the territory. He positions himself protectively between the toddler and the room full of nervous aliens, making it clear that anyone who wants to mess with his tiny human will have to go through him first. Given what he's accomplished in the last 24 hours, nobody is volunteering for that particular duty. Commander Vextar, whose medals now seem significantly less impressive in the presence of a creature that treats interdimensional horrors like jungle gyms, clears his throat with the sound of someone swallowing his pride along with his military doctrine. "Ambassador Martinez, on behalf of the Zephyrine High Command, I want to assure you that your offspring was never in any actual danger. Our facility's safety protocols are quite comprehensive." He says this while standing in what used to be his war room, which now looks like it was redecorated by a hurricane with a creative writing degree. The holographic displays are stuck, showing Tommy's crayon drawings that somehow got uploaded to the main computer system. The strategic planning table has been converted into what appears to be an elaborate fort made from classified military documents. "In fact," Vextar continues, his voice climbing into registers that suggest he's one small crisis away from a complete breakdown, "we've learned valuable lessons about alternative approaches to fear conditioning. Your species' unique psychological profile has provided insights that will revolutionize our understanding of courage." What he doesn't mention is the emergency session of the Galactic Council that convened 6 hours ago, where grainy security footage of Tommy and Razorclaw's adventure has already been viewed by representatives from 47 different star systems. The footage that shows a human child treating the galaxy's most sophisticated fear-inducing technology like an amusement park ride, while making friends with a creature that military databases classify as approach with extreme caution and possibly a will. The official council resolution, passed unanimously in record time, essentially boils down to, Earth is now classified as a friendship zone. Do not provoke, do not invade, do not even make eye contact unless they approach you first. Dr. Flemick, who's been frantically compiling his research notes, approaches with the kind of careful steps usually reserved for navigating minefields. "Commander, I've completed my preliminary analysis of the human honey badger interaction patterns. The implications for our understanding of fearlessness are significant." "How significant?" Vextar asks, though his tone suggests he already knows he's not going to like the answer. "Well, sir, it appears that humans don't just lack fear, they actively convert terrifying situations into entertainment. They appear to have evolved beyond the fear response entirely, replacing it with what can only be described as aggressive curiosity." As if to demonstrate this point, Tommy chooses this moment to discover that Commander Vextar's ceremonial sword makes excellent teething material. The sight of the galaxy's most feared military leader gently trying to negotiate with a 3-year-old for the return of his weapon while a honey badger serves as mediator is probably the final nail in the coffin of Zephyrian military superiority. 6 months later, recruitment posters across the galaxy feature a new slogan: "Join the Zephyrin Fleet. We survived first contact with human children." The posters show a dramatic silhouette of Elite Squad Alpha, though they don't mention that 3 of them are still in therapy, and Sergeant Klingtar has developed a nervous tic whenever he hears the sound of children laughing. Razorclaw, meanwhile, has been officially promoted to Special Consultant for Unconventional Warfare Tactics, and splits his time between the facility's new Applied Chaos Theory Department and Tommy's backyard on Earth, where they continue their research into the universal applications of fearlessness and creative destruction. And Tommy just turned 4 last month. His parents are already getting concerned phone calls from his preschool about his unusual approach to conflict resolution and his habit of making friends with the class pets that everyone else is afraid of. Somewhere in the galactic intelligence networks, analysts are updating humanity's threat assessment, rating from primitive but promising to approach with extreme caution and maybe some snacks. Because apparently, when your toddlers can accidentally conquer military installations just by being themselves, your species gets a reputation. The honey badger training program was quietly discontinued. The facility now houses a small petting zoo. And across the galaxy, alien parents have started using a new bedtime story to keep their children in line. Behave, or the humans will send their young ones to play with you. It's surprisingly effective.